In today's video, we are going to be looking at the Prydwen tier list, which I have not done in a very long time. I usually do make my own tier list when it comes to looking at how these characters are doing, but I just want to see what the overall opinion is on these characters since I haven't seen this in a very long time. And then also that I will be making my own eventually when is the end of 2.0. That way I can factor in Black Swan, that way I can factor in Sparkle, all that type of stuff, because Black Swan has just already been such a crazy character to start with, and I'm just very excited to see what we're going to be looking at in the future for Honkai Star Rail. So other than that, make sure to leave a like and a sub on the video if you're going to be enjoying something like this, and also if you're going to be ready for more showcases, of course, and the tier list I'm going to make myself. So let's go ahead and start looking at the tier list. To be honest, I don't know what to expect, but let's go ahead and see. Okay, so starting at S+, we got Jingliu still up there. Of course, I don't think it's gonna be a very long time until someone like Jingliu gets taken out, because just her skill point efficiency, the amount of damage she's doing, the frequency of how much she can do it far surpasses everything in all regards to DPS. And okay, hot take, and I know it's gonna be a little controversial. QQ being an S doesn't sit right with me. I can't ever sit right with me with her being at S with Don Hung, and maybe even Sele. I possibly might not agree either. Okay, there's a couple of things right now that are kind of hindering these guys. Ching Chue is solely based because she's an RNG character. I think depending on a guaranteed luck system of, if this character hits all their tiles in the right order every single time, you're gonna be an S tier character, which is true. But realistically, the way I want to see it with Ching Chue is I think she should always be somewhere at the bottom of A, or maybe I think bottom of A should be fine, just because for the due fact that if you get unlucky, you lose all your DPS for that turn. It's similar to the way we look at certain characters where they lose their DPS based on certain things. How Jin Yuan was far much lower because of his Lightning Lord, and when he got CC'd, he ended up not getting his turn at all, making him a B tier character beforehand. I'm not sure where he was when it came to his rating before, but Jin Yuan at the current moment, he's a lot better than what he was before. Sele at the current moment, in my honest opinion, I know there's going to be some people that say this, even though I use my Sele so much because I love that character. Sele at the current moment isn't the best option and probably needs to get bumped down to the bottom of A. I know it's not a ordered list, but just to say, or maybe even an A+ for Sele, just because in my honest opinion, I think at this point in time, we just don't have a strong enough Sele to be able to reliably one-shot all of these ads. They've been making these guys have a lot more health. They made them a lot more tankier. It's just been overall crazy when it comes to the amount of HP these guys are getting. And with the new modes coming out, with having the new bosses come out, Sele's not able to proc Resurgence. Sele's basically losing the most of her passive. So this is, I just think at the current moment, maybe this will change with Sparkle. We'll have to wait and see for Mono Quantum or for Sele specifically. But looking at Sele at the current moment, I just don't think she's up there with, Dr. Ratio, Don Hung, and like I already said, QQ. I think she needs to be put down to A as well, just because she is an RNG character. I think if I'm not wrong, this is based on if she was lucky all the time. I don't think that's a fair assessment on Ching Chue, in my fair opinion, just because you're not lucky all the time. You're never going to have 100% uptime when it comes to getting your RNG procs, getting the most amount of tiles, getting a guaranteed tile at that point, not wasting any more skill points. It, in my opinion, just isn't, the case. And the same thing with her R-Talk key or her follow-up, you're not guaranteed that either. So in my honest opinion, I just think that QQ needs to get brought down, and so does Sele. I think Don Hung and Dr. Ratio at the current moment are probably the only ones that need to be at S, maybe Jin Yuan, with how, actually no, maybe Blade, actually. It's coming from the Blade elitist, but I think Blade has seen a lot more value when it comes to where he's been in the game for a good amount of time. First, he came out as a hyper carry for the most part, and then as time went on, he is now a sub DPS, and I think there should be value associated with this, where you're able to put him on multiple teams. He's able to sustain himself. He's able to keep himself alive. He doesn't take away skill points from the main DPS, which is a very big thing for sub DPSs to do, or at least if you are using skill points, you got to put in the work for it, and Blade 100% does that for you. I think Blade should be put up in S. He's never been, I think, higher than A, if I'm not wrong, unless when it came to his release, which upsets me just because I know he has a lot of value and people just aren't looking at it when it comes to how much he's able to provide for a team, how little he needs from that team to be able to do well. So hopefully we can see him rise up in the future. I know there's going to be another HP sacrificing character, which is probably going to be Sam, just because we've seen the destruction Lycone in the Lycone shop. So there's that. But other than that, seeing Herta, Himiko, Serval, holy crap, Serval in Memory of Chaos B, question mark. I haven't used Serval. I gotta see how she is actually. And then Arlen at D. Oh my god. Arlen at D. Dang, I definitely might want to showcase him or Triumph just because he's all the way at D. They said this dude is dog. Yo, Yanqing is here too. Dang, what did they do to y'all? But so far, besides what I said with Cele being brought to A, Qingchui being brought to A, Blade being put up to S, I think at the current moment, that's where I would stand. I think everywhere else, in my opinion, is pretty cool. Everything else when it comes to ranking. I know Clara is the same thing. And Clara, it's funny that QQ is up here, but not Clara, because Clara is the same thing as QQ. You need to have RNG. You need to get hit if you don't have your ultimate up. So it's kind of unfair, in my honest opinion, when it comes to the DPS tier list, where QQ is max RNG all the time, but Clara isn't. She doesn't have the RNG symbol, and she's not, said, oh, if you get hit all these times, Clara is going to be one of the best characters. Because Clara does some massive damage, especially with how many times these enemies are hitting, because now they have the enemy that dizzies, where she's able to hit multiple times in one go, and that might be a plus for Clara. I know she can cleanse herself when she gets hit, when she has her ultimate, if I'm not wrong. So I don't know, I feel like they should look at Clara just a little bit differently, because if they're gonna put the RNG symbol on Qingchui, I think Clara has the same thing, with her being super destructive when she's getting pummeled against all these enemies that are hitting her, especially with all the different enemy waves that we're getting. We're just 5 people out at the same time, and they're all hitting one character. I think that's a very big thing for Clara, and that's a big reason why I think Clara is supposed to be a little bit higher. Let's go ahead and go into the specialist tier list, and of course Kafka is here due to Black Swan. 100%. I understand. I think Kafka 1000% deserves this spot, especially because she was an S before, if I'm not wrong. But looking at Kafka now and how great Black Swan has been an asset to the Dot team and how much that helps Kafka, and for the fact that we have other characters that have been really good in the game with Gwenifin, Luca, Sampo, all these characters, and maybe even Gallagher in the future if he is a Dot unit, which I have my own speculative theories about that, which I'd be very, very, very excited if he was a character that has Dot and can heal. Ooh, that would be so heat. But looking at the light code from the shop, I think that might be the case. Let's go ahead and keep going on. Another thing that I feel like needs to be slightly adjusted is that for Topaz, I think she needs to go to S plus as well. And there's a reason I'm saying this, is because Kafka is there because she is the leader. She is the apex of that team. She is the reason the Dot team is so good, because you're able to retrigger all these dots and at least have some explosive damage throughout those turns. So of course that actually makes sense. But for Topaz, she's basically the same thing. She is the apex of the follow-up team at the current moment. Not only does she do her all attacks do follow-up damage, so she doesn't have to worry about if she uses her skill, she can be SP positive. I mean, if she uses her normal attack, it's SP positive, but it still hurts really good just because it is a follow-up attack considered. And then the special is the same way, and then when you enhance it and a Nubby gets that enhanced, ooh yeah, you're doing some damage. So not only is she doing damage herself, she's also buffing herself and also other units with their follow-up attack, proof of debt modifier, which I think is something that should be considered in looking at how the follow-up team will really like Topaz. If you're wanting to use someone like Dr. Ratio, you want to use someone like Jing Yuan, a lot of these teams that are basically used frequently with these follow-up characters are with Topaz. And especially if you do Mono Fire, if you do, like I said, Jing Yuan, or have Dr. Ratio, or maybe even other characters that do follow-up attacks. I think just because Topaz and Numby are in the same vein as, Kafka, with them being the leaders of the team, or them being the archetype characters, where they're able to allow a certain team to be able to be built, where Kafka is Dot and Topaz is a follow-up character supporting those follow-up characters. I think she deserves to be an S plus as well, in my honest opinion. Black Swan being an S is 100% understandable, just because she is super duper strong, and she's basically shown that she has some amazing potential, and even more so in the future. I think the S plus for the specialist tab should probably be considered, looking at Topaz being an S plus, just because, like I said, looking at Black Swan, looking at Topaz, Black Swan is her own character. She's, the DPS of the team. She allows for some crazy stuff to happen in the Dot team. but Topaz full on enables a follow-up team to happen where you're basically buffing it, you're doing damage, you're doing crazy damage, you're assisting with your damage as well while buffing it. I think, you know, having these two archetype leaders at the very top would make a lot of sense. But Black Swan being at S, 1000% agreed. She is very, very strong. Luca, Sampo, Shui Yi. I wish I had my Shui Yi E6. Ah, that sucks. I swear I hate it. I went for E1 Ruan Mei and only got 2 Shui Yi. That bugged me so bad. But understandable, 100%. Guanifin at B. That's interesting, in all honesty. I would have think someone like maybe even Sampo would be down here and B, and Guanifin up here, just because the Fire Kiss, the damage modifier. I feel like that'd be very important. That'd be something really good for the dot team, especially with how Guanifin at the current moment, or maybe it's because of the wind shear break. It's possible. I think that might be what it is. Character under circumstances. Okay, so burst damage or breaking. I still think Guanifin with her Fire Kiss would have been really amazing. I know that Sampo in his ultimate does give dot damage buff when it comes to his ultimate and his full wave hitting. But, you know, Guanifin does the same thing with her Fire Kiss, which is for overall damage. So I'm very, you know, surprised to see that she's up down here in B instead of A with the rest of these dot units, which I would assume they'd all share the same rankings, that they all do the same thing technically, slightly, but in the different elements. And then Shui, of course, at E6, she's an absolute monster. Putting her where Black Swan is would be a stretch, but I think A is a really good spot for her. Su Shang and Well, understandable, in my honest opinion. I think, you know, Su Shang is really, really strong, but compared to the rest of these guys, especially if you're rocking Break Su Shang or Hybrid Su Shang, you're not going to put up as much when it comes to the value you get from these characters. Now, she does probably have the fastest shield shred when it comes to physical, just because she's able to go multiple times, just because she's able to use her, you know, skill. That's a lot of shield taken off if you're using someone like Ruan Mei. So understandable that she is like super good in certain circumstances, while for the rest of the cases for like Shui, Luca, Sampo, Guanifin, which I still think Guanifin should probably be up there, but I would like to know why she's down here, in all honesty. I don't think that she pulls in as much value when it comes to the rest of these dot characters. And then Welt's being, I don't know, I feel like at the current moment, Welt doesn't have a crazy spot in a lot of these teams at the moment, just because with Ruan Mei, he did get a nice and big buff with the break effect, with the delay, with being able to do most things. But seeing Welt's right now, how his ult doesn't hit impressively hard, how his skill doesn't hit impressively hard, even if you build on break, sometimes that kind of hinders you in the damage that you do, or having to proc certain things like Ruan Mei's delay, like having to proc something like Black Swan's Arcana. You can't stack it more, but you don't let it pop. There's a lot of things that Welt does that inadvertently mess up your other members, so I can understand why he's right here in B. And then Misha and Fire Trailblazer. Oh, Misha, what have they done to you? I think Misha's a pretty good unit. I wouldn't even say he's C tier, just because that man hits hard. I'm out to try him out in a different team, but dude, this dude is super cool. I love this guy. This guy's fun. That's crazy. Poor Misha and poor Trailblazer, to be honest. Amplifier, Ruan Mei at S+, to be honest. Can I be fair? Even though everyone has their own tiers, I feel like Ruan Mei just needs to get put in S++ or SSS. She has completely ruined the game with how much of a difference it is versus running Ruan Mei and not running Ruan Mei. Like, you feel your team is built wrong when you don't have Ruan Mei on the team. So I feel like, although she is by herself already, I do think that as a character, how broken she is, how busted she is, she just needs to be up another tier. She is absolutely such a strong character. She makes so many different teams absolutely broken, with the dot team being super busted, with a lot of these hyper carry teams being super dumb when it comes to the supports that they run, when it comes to the damage dealers that they run. They have some crazy options. Not only that, characters like Ruan Mei, who are basically making people think differently with the break effect builds or sub DPS. That is a huge thing to bring to the game, and with one character alone doing that, oh, that's just a lot. Bronya, Silverwolf, and Ting Yun. And y'all know, y'all see my profile picture as Silverwolf, but man, I don't know. I personally don't know, because I feel like Silverwolf right now has been in a spot just because there are a lot of veterans at this point in the game, and even people that played since PlayStation's release, where Silverwolf is just not really needed at this point at the moment. She is a good character by default. She's giving you weakness implant. She's giving you the all these different measures for mono quantum. She's making that team work. But looking at the universality, I don't know how to say that word. Bronya and Ting Yun does work on no matter what team it is, and same goes for Silverwolf. But I feel like in the meta that we're in the current moment, where a lot of it's AoE based and not a lot of it's single target based, and with sometimes even the mobs refreshing multiple times, I feel like Silverwolf just loses a little bit more value when it comes to having her on the team versus someone like Bronya versus someone like Ting-Yun, where your DPS can do massive AoE damage and buff them that way. That way they're able to deal with the whole wave, while single target debuffs and the implant weakness is only good on that one character and doesn't let you deal with or work with the other as they're in the wave at the current moment. So I understand that Silverwolf's super strong, and I promise you, I make her work as any way I can. But man, I just don't feel like she's supposed to be up there with Bronya and Ting-Yun, just because, like I said, the utility that Bronya and Ting-Yun give that are universal is so much more potent, better when it comes to what Silverwolf can do on an AoE style team. Now that we're looking at the A tier, it's Asta, Hanya, Pella 100%. I might even say Pella up here instead of Silverwolf in my honest opinion. I feel like Pella just gives so much, and even with the right light cones, which is a 4-star with the tutorial mission, that one that gives you so much energy, or maybe even Resolution Shines, you get some massive value when it comes to the things that Pella can do versus Silverwolf. So man, I might switch their places in all honesty with Pella and Silverwolf, and then Hanya, Asta 1000%, and Yukong at the bottom. We love to see it. We love to see it. We love to see we love to see it. I do not like Yukong. I feel like she is very fragile and very like restrictive in what she can do. She at E6, she's usable, but man, is it so annoying to use her. You have to fine-tune the heck out of her, and then she becomes absolutely amazing character. But man, if you're using her in a general sense, she does more negatives than she does positives, man. I'm not even lying. Like right now, I just do not use Yukong at all. Even with my imaginary teams, I just don't, because there's just so many better options at the current moment, and she's just very restricted of play and very like you need to hyper invest in this character, and not even in a crazy way like with 1 billion speed. No, you have to make sure she's at the right speed. She has enough attack to be able to do some certain things. She needs to be able to have this like about. No, me personally, I just can't. I'd run my Pella and that's fine. Or I'll run Hanya. I think Hanya is really nice as well. Looking at sustain, ooh, this is my favorite like class right here when it comes to tier list, because I feel like I look at this very differently. Well, not very differently, but I look at this a different way. Fu Xuan at S+ always, 100%. I think this will always be the case. I don't think she can ever be taken down unless someone comes out with some god tier sustain where their passive is you don't die. Like that's literally it, because Fu Xuan basically does that for you. I think the only time you will ever die with the Fu Xuan is like Golden Gears or Swarm Disaster, where you're not built up, you're not having enough of the passives from the actual event to be able to stay alive. I think that's the only time ever Fu Xuan doesn't work by herself. That's the only reason. Everything else, when it comes to just Memory of Chaos, when it comes to that mode, you are not dying. It's impossible to die in Memory of Chaos, in my honest opinion. I just don't think it's possible with Fu Xuan. I just haven't seen that happen. So yeah, her being an S+ is non-negotiable. Ho-Ho and Luocha, I think this is fine as well. Ho-Ho is very strong for a certain amount of teams, especially the dot team, one of the better sustainers for sure, because of that energy, that attack boost, 1000%. And Luocha is still holding his own, in my honest opinion. I know I had some negative thoughts about him before, with his healing, his standby healing, his cleansing. He's such a great character still. Right now, when it comes to the game and what's happening in the game, there is a lot of debuffs happening. We do have a lot of damage getting taken in, and with Luocha having that field where you're able to just spam attacks, do multiple attacks, do your ultimate, this is some really good stuff for Luocha, and he's gonna have a very nice place in the S spot for a very long time, until someone else comes in that's crazier, that is ascending Luocha, that's kind of like Ho-Ho, where she's able to do the auto cleanse, the auto heal, the standby heal, all that type of stuff. It's just that she gives buffs, so it's understandable, and then Luocha's right here as well, with being an absolute sustain god. I am 1000% happy that Lynx is in A. I think this is a perfect spot for her. I think her being by herself in A is 100% better, just because people don't understand the amount of value you get from Lynx when it comes to all her Eidolons, and even just her at her base self, which you get from Pure Fiction. Lynx at E6 becomes not only a mini Fu Xuan, because you are getting that immune to CC, you are getting a full-on party cleanse, you are getting a single target cleanse, if I'm not wrong. I may be wrong about that. You get an attack buff with a certain Eidolon. There's many things that you get with Lynx, and then not only that, she has the added utility of adding taunt to preservation and destruction units, which we haven't seen in a good minute. We haven't seen very class specific passives in a long time. So I kind of wish they'd bring that back to make some more cool teams. But someone like Blade, someone like Jabard, someone like all these other characters, they would really love to have that extra taunt. And seeing Lynx be there at A by herself under some 5 stars or above some 5 stars, I think that's 100% guaranteed, 100% a good take in my own opinion. I think she's just such a good character. But of course, she is not near Luocha. And she is not near REHOO. I can say that for sure. But Lynx can 1000% solo sustain most things. And she's just a really great character. I really enjoy that she's above Bailu and Japar right now. Which, Bailu, if this was an overall tier list, I would understand this. Well, I would say this is pretty accurate. I mean, if it was an overall tier list, I would say that I would change this up a little bit. But since it's Memory of Chaos based, I think Bailu and Japar should stay where they're at. They basically just do their job and do nothing else. With Bailu being able to keep you alive, being able to give you that one free revive, being able to reduce damage with her invigoration. And then with Japar, he's the shield man. He just drops shields. And then he has the added benefit of possibly freezing as well if you invest into effect hit rate. So I think it's just an overall good spot for them to be in. If it was an overall tier list, I would definitely put Japar somewhere in S or maybe even A+. Just because his viability in SU or Simulated Universe Golden Gears, man, he carried me. That man carried me. I think that is a really good thing to see. That was using Japar for a very long time. But Bailu, she just hasn't seen a lot of different play over these characters at all. All these characters have some added benefit or have some crazy thing to them, while Bailu and Japar, they're basically there just to do their job. They do nothing more, nothing less. They keep you alive and that's it. And you don't get anything else. No CC prevention, no buffs, no nothing like that. So honestly, I 1000% agree with this. And then March 7th, Natasha, yeah, I agree with this as well. I think for the most part, this tier list has some pretty good stuff. I do think for the most part, their specialist tab, just bump one up slightly. I don't know why Gwynaifin's here by herself in all honesty when it comes to the dot units. Yeah, the specialist is pretty good. Amplifier, I would switch Pella and Silverwolf. And then for sustain, I think this is a perfect tier list right here. I think this is 100% how it is in the game and all that type of stuff. And then for damage dealer, as I said, there's a couple of things when it comes to how I would see these characters. Ching Chui I'd probably put up in the A or A+, just because I don't think giving guaranteed RNG for a character is fair when someone like Clara is the same way. And then you also have Sele, who's kind of getting neglected when it comes to the HP that these characters are starting to get. Blade and his utility as a sub DPS, as a main DPS, with all that he can do, how resource efficient he is, I think he should be bumped to S in my own opinion. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I think this is pretty cool looking at the tier list and see how other people's opinions are on this. 100% shout out to Prydwen for their tier list, 100%. And other than that, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching all the video. Let me know what you thought about it. Let me know what you think about these characters, where they should be put at. And other than that, thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one. And peace.